Hi, so today I'm going to kind of talk about a totally different episode. It was a different time, very interesting, odd things that happened. So my dad was living in Kansas at this time. Me and Gus were married. We had, I think, at least Eric and Selena. I'm not sure that we had Joshua at this point. I can't remember. But so I'm pretty sure we were living in the Aho house, and which is a house that we lived in Battleground, and the Aho is the builder of the house, so we always call it the Aho house. It was a cute little house in Battleground. It was like 1089, and back then when, and that meant like that's how many square feet. So it was 1,089 square feet. It was a cute little house. It had actually quite a bit of room for how, the size of it. And we were on a corner lot, so we had a backyard and side yard and front yard, and it was a really nice little house, and I really liked the subdivision, and it was really nice. Anyway, so we lived there, and my dad lived in Kansas on his farm and acreage, I guess. It was kind of like out in the middle of nowhere, and it was tiny town. They had to like drive miles to get to like a big store, so they did like huge shopping and at once. And well, he was married to his wife Cheryl, and just so happened they got in a huge fight, and Cheryl left him, and a lot of things happened there. So maybe I'll start with, they had a pack of dogs, and literally like a pack of wolf dogs because the dogs that they had were part wolf, and they had a female who was something else too. I don't know what it was, but anyway, they always were around their house and lived, with them. They were their dogs. And I guess they had gotten in a fight because wolves fight, and one of the wolves actually bit into Cheryl's arm and like bit it all up. Well, living out where they do, they didn't really have a whole lot of always go to the doctor or anything like that. So they were trying to take care of the bite by themselves. Besides that, they didn't want the county or anybody getting involved in the fact that it was a dog bite. And so, but I guess it got bad enough. And then the dogs also ended up getting one of the neighbor's cows. And so they had called the county on them, or however it happens that somebody would come out to get all the dogs. And so they're rounding up all the dogs, and I guess somehow they noticed that Cheryl had wrapped up her arm, and they brought her in or something. I don't know. Something happened anyway. So she ended up finally getting medical care for her arm, which was very infected, and a lot of things were going on. So between that, they lost their dogs. That was very upsetting to them. So then they had chickens. So there's another story about the chicken business, and they had a whole bunch of chickens and a whole bunch of ducks, and they had these animals outside, living outside, and they I don't know if their dogs kept getting them or why they decided to bring these chickens in the house. But my dad decided that the chickens could live in the house, and they lived in a little trailer. Well, and the house was like a big, like double wide, I think. It was actually pretty nice. I had been there at one point. There was a big kitchen. There was lots of bedrooms. There was a dining room. I mean, it was big, and it was decent, very nice trailer. Anyway, so whatever happened, because I wasn't there for all of it, they ended up having the chickens live in the house. So they would go in and water down the chickens and feed them and whatever when they lived in the trailer, in like a little camper trailer, like a small little trailer. And so my dad really liked his chickens, and he did a lot with them, and he just, everything they did was amazing. And so anyway, Cheryl had gone in there. Well, they had watered down the place enough and got it, drenched enough that the floorboards were like wrecked. And she had like taken a step, and her leg went through the floor and broke her hip. Well, so she didn't go into the doctor for that. They just thought that, oh, well, it'll heal up. So she's in the trailer all the time. My dad's doing all the work, and she's in the trailer and they're asleep on a lazy boy in the trailer. And she was, I guess, in a lot of pain and always just dealing with a lot of pain. Never went to the doctor. Anyway, at some point, she must have gotten a hold of one of her kids. She has 2 boys, and one of her kids went there and got her and brought her to stay with him or stay with their family, her brother or something. And she went to doctors and got healed up, and I guess she was really in a bad way. So my dad called up my brother and was like, I don't want to live here by myself, and Cheryl left me, and he was really upset and distraught. So my brother went to go get him. So Melinda, my sister-in-law, who we've done podcasts before together, she went she was pregnant. She was like due. So Matthew, they decided to have Melinda's mom go with Matt, and then Donald went, which is Matt's son, their oldest. And they drove to Kansas to go get my dad. And it's always kind of a fiasco with my dad and drama and all that. So, my dad ended up deciding after Matthew had gotten there, that he wanted to bring all his chickens and bring them to Washington. So here we are, Melinda and I am sitting here waiting for my dad to come back. And I hadn't seen my dad in years. So it was like, I was actually kind of excited to be able to see him. And I was just kind of like getting stories here and there, because obviously we didn't have cell phones back then. And okay, so yesterday I kind of got interrupted, and so I'm going to finish today about my dad's story. And I believe I was talking about how we were expecting him to come, and he decided he wanted all his chickens and ducks to come too. So I remember them, like, they had to make cages and make all this stuff for the trailer that they were like pulling the trailer, which had no license plate.
I thought they had an actual some kind of a RV camper thing.
Well, yeah, that's the trailer I guess I was talking about. But yeah, RV camper, old style, not any new thing. It was like a old RV camper trailer thing. But yeah, RV, we'll call it RV, is probably a better word for it. And they were filling the back of it full of the chickens. And so Melinda's mom was Donald was with Matt and my dad, and they were all working to get the chickens into this trailer while Melinda is pregnant. And I believe that she was close to due. Like, not like gonna have it any minute, but getting close. If I remember right. Don't remember what child that was. So they're getting this all ready, and it's like taking forever, and they're they finally get on the road. I can't remember how long it actually takes before they're going, but it was a long time, like a frustrating long time. And so they're on the road and they're going along, and they get to, do you remember where they were? They were in like almost every state. They end up getting stopped by a police officer because the plates are not right, if it's even plated. But somehow my dad knew that you can travel from state to state without having proper plates somehow, as long as you were moving. I don't know the laws or the rules or what he was talking about exactly, but do you remember that part?
No. It might have been something to do with because he had farm animals, hence chickens and ducks.
Yeah, that he could just travel with them without having proper plated. But he got stopped all the time. So they would just allow him to move along. Well, Kathy, Melinda's mom, ended up at one stop telling the cops that there was weed in the back. And so because of that, the cops decided they were taking all of the chickens out and going to check all the cages. Well, as you can imagine, this did not do very well, because now they have probable cause, and they are able to like take all the chickens out and check all their cages. And I don't know how the whole incident happened, but obviously, like, you can't just put the chickens back. So the chickens are running all over the place. My dad is running after the chickens, trying to find all these chickens and ducks. It's a complete mess. Matt is like, you know what? I have been looking for your chickens and doing all these things about your chickens, and I need to get home to my wife. And Dad isn't leaving without his chickens. So Matt ends up leaving and going back home. Dad ends up losing all his chickens to somewhere in...
It was in...
Salt Lake City?
No, Colorado.
Grand
Junction or something.
Something like, yeah.
It was just north of Denver.
Oh, yeah, okay. And so, no chickens. Matt and Dad got in a huge fight. Matt leaves. Dad's there in Colorado. So he ends up calling his sister. No, first he called us. And so we got him a train ticket to come to Washington. So he's on the train. The next we hear from him, we find out that he's no longer on the train because he decided to go into the sleeper car and sleep. He wasn't supposed to be in there. We didn't buy him a sleeper car ticket. We just bought him a regular train ticket, and was expecting to go pick him up like the next day or something, right?
Like 2 days later.
Oh, so it was like 2 days that he called us and said, I'm not on the train.
No, we didn't know he wasn't on the train until we went to pick him up, which was like 2 days.
Yeah. Yeah, so we went to pick him up, and he wasn't there. So then, of course, we didn't have any way to contact him, so we just had to wait. It was 2 days after we were supposed to pick him up, or we went to pick him up, and he wasn't there.
I think it was almost like a week or something before we heard from him.
Oh. So we had no idea where he was or what was going on. Was Matthew back by then?
Yeah, because he actually, I think you and him went to the train station to pick him up.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Like that, we no cell phones or nothing at that time.
Right.
And then he wasn't there, and then I remember you guys came home, and you called the Amtrak, and they said, yeah, he got his ticket.
Yeah, he was on the train. Yeah. So he ended up going into the sleeper car and going to sleep, and the next thing he woke up and he wasn't moving with the train anymore. He looks out the window and he's not even connected anymore. Well, he also didn't have a way out. He didn't have a way to get out of the train car, so he had to, there was like this little small window or something, he said, that he had to climb out of. In the meantime, like, I guess he lost, like, whatever he did, he lost his identity, like, he didn't have a license anymore, he lost, like, his wallet, or he didn't have anything, I don't know. He ended up calling his sister in Florida, and she got him a plane ticket to Florida to see her and stay with her. I was rather frustrated because we were like waiting for him and hadn't heard anything, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'm in Florida with my sister, and I'm like, oh, nice. So he stays with Dottie, and she lives in Florida. She has, like, I guess 4 hair salon boutiques, and so she's doing well. And so did he go to Israel first, or did he go, they went to, was this around 2000 then, and they went to North Carolina thing.
Yeah, I think it was after that then, so it would have been after Y2K, because he had convinced, well, him and his sister were with Y2K, you know, there's going to be no power or nothing, so they bought some kind of a thing up in the mountains of North Carolina, and
that was a compound or something.
Some kind of a compound, that, and then they made it off the grid, so to speak.
Yeah. So they both made it so that it would run on its own. They had all the water and food and generated power, and they were growing things, and it was like kind of a compound like thing that in North Carolina that they used way back when, like different houses and barns and all the stuff. The way he explained it was pretty cool. Well, so Y2K came and went, and the end of the world did not happen. So she went back to Florida. They both did. And I don't know if they sold it or what they did with it. Maybe they kept it. Maybe she kept it. I don't know. So then my dad said that he had a dream that if he went to Israel, he was going to walk off the plane and get a drink of water. Somebody was going to give him a drink of water, and he was going to be healed, completely healed of his mental issues. And so his sister said that she had the same dream. So they both decided that he needed to go to Israel. So he went to Israel, and he walked off the plane, and nobody handed him a glass of water. But he stayed in Israel for a little while. I don't even remember how long. Do you? I'm really bad at dates.
3 to 6 months at least.
Yeah. So while he was there, he was doing a whole bunch of things that he shouldn't have been doing. And all I know was that gotten in with this group of people where he said he could like mask himself as being like a Palestinian to coming back and looking like a he was from Israeli, yeah, an Israeli. So he would go back and forth, and he was carrying these rugs. So he's transporting rugs back and forth, according to his letter. And he, for whatever he was actually doing, I'm not sure, but he somehow ended up in the government, and the government said, "You are never, ever, ever welcome in our country again." He got deported out of the country and told never to return. So, yeah, so my dad is literally kicked out of Israel forever. And he didn't get his glass of water. And he didn't get healed. They ended up, there was a point in time there where my dad wrote me a letter and completely disowned us because we had gotten in contact with Cheryl, and Cheryl had reimbursed us for the ticket, and I don't know, gave Matt and Melinda some money too. So that had to be during the time that Emmanuel and Joshua were born later that time. We must have been pregnant with them at that time because they were both actually supposed to be born around the same time in March. And then after my dad lived with his sister for probably about a year, then he moved back here. That was I don't remember exactly what year, but if it was even that long, he moved back and he ended up, did they stay with my brother for a little while?
It seems like they did.
Cheryl
before.
and him got back together. They stayed with my brother for a while, and then they got a place in Seaside, Oregon, lived at the beach. At one point during that time, Cheryl had left him again. He came and lived with me for a very short time. And then he went back to living at the beach, and Cheryl went back with him. And it was 2 years later, because Joshua was like 2 years old, and my dad died of an aneurysm to the brain. At least that's what we believe happened. He had heart issues, an enlarged heart most of his life. But it could have been anything because it's not like we found out. So when Joshua doesn't really remember him because he was so little. My other two remember him a little bit. Remember him living there and got to know him somewhat. My brother's family and the kids, they remember him a lot more. Donald was really close to my dad. He thought my dad was the best ever, which is great. I'm glad he did.